In every court, in every council, in every battlefield of power, men speak too quickly, too much, and too freely. They mistake noise for influence. But those who win, those who rule, under this silence is the superior weapon. In the affairs of men and the cruel geometry of politics, power does not always reside in the sword, nor in the scepter, nor even in the crowd's adoration. Often, it hides in places unseen, in subtlety, in restraint, and most cunningly, in silence. They are terrified. The one who learns to wield silence as a blade soon realizes he holds a weapon sharper than speech and more enduring than brute force. To remain silent in a world of endless noise is not weakness. It is strategy. The ambitious man, when he speaks, must understand that every word is an act of exposure. Speech is the laying bare of intent, of belief, of fear. It is a map to the interior, terrified, and maps, in the hands of enemies, are instruments of sabotage. He who speaks his mind grants others the tools with which to dismantle him. Silence denies this advantage. In silence, a man offers no leverage. He invites no retaliation because he has not yet cleared a position to be attacked. His adversaries must guess, and in guessing, they err. They project their own fears, hopes, and strategies onto the silent one. And in these projections, they expose themselves. They are terrified. The silent man is feared because he is unreadable. In court, a prince who says little is more unsettling than one who shouts decrees. In council, the minister who listens more than he speaks is assumed to be more cunning than he may actually be. Men attribute wisdom to quiet. They are terrified and danger to what they cannot predict. They call it prudence, mystery, control. But what it is, in essence, is an illusion of dominance built on the refusal to share. In silence, one controls the rhythm of conflict. By not responding to provocation, one forces the enemy to act again, and perhaps again, until he tires or exposes his true objective. Every additional move he makes increases the chance of miscalculation. Meanwhile, the silent player watches, gathering information, adapting with each moment, ever flexible, never exposed. He loses nothing by waiting, and everything by revealing too soon. They are terrified. The man who speaks first has already lost his upper hand. He gives shape to the battlefield before understanding its terrain. He commits to a position, declares a loyalty, or betrays a desire. Each of these can be used against him. The silent man, by contrast, they are terrified, commits to nothing. He can change course without appearing inconsistent. His silence shields him from contradiction, from entrapment, from premature allegiance. While others tie themselves in knots with declarations and promises, he remains untied. They are terrified. To be silent is also to listen with intention, not to be passive, but to be alert. Words spoken by others are weapons left on the ground. In the clamor of conversation, secrets are spilled carelessly. The talkative man, enamored with his own voice, they are terrified, does not hear what he reveals nor what is revealed by others. The silent man, however, collects fragments. He watches expressions, notes inconsistencies, hears hesitations. He builds a dossier of intelligence without ever offering any of his own. This is not muteness. It is espionage. Silence also commands attention. In a world where men are desperate to be heard, to assert, to convince, they are terrified. The one who speaks little creates a vacuum. And in that vacuum, others lean in. They wonder what he is thinking, what he knows, what he plans. Terrified. His rare words are listened to with greater care because they are rare. His restraint imbues his speech with weight. He does not compete for volume, he commands through scarcity. What is not said becomes more powerful than any speech could have been. There is danger in always being silent, of course. A man must not let his silence be confused with absence or weakness. They are terrified. He must occasionally speak. But only when the moment serves him, only when the words are weapons sharpened to precision. His silence is the scabbard, his speech, the blade drawn when the strike is guaranteed to land. Thus, silence is never passive. It is not cowardice, nor indecision. It is premeditated. It is the decision not to engage on another's terms. Terrified. It is the creation of one's own arena, the refusal to play by the rhythms of others. In political intrigue, in war, in negotiation, and even in personal rivalry, the one who speaks least reveals least, and therefore loses least. Are terrified. The one who speaks much is already negotiating from a position of disadvantage. Every ruler, every commander, every tactician who has lasted beyond a single season of fortune has known the virtue of silence. Not the silence of retreat. They are terrified, but the silence of ambush. The silence before the storm. The silence of a man who has already decided his course, but sees no reason to announce it. Let others brag, boast, scheme aloud. Let them voice their plans and tip their hands. He who rules himself rules others. And nothing signals self-rule more than silence. It is a discipline incarnate. A man who can restrain his tongue shows he can restrain his sword, his anger, his pride. And such a man is feared not because he is loud, but because he does not need to be. Men believe their words elevate them, are terrified. They think that to speak is to assert power, to influence minds, to shape events. Yet those who understand the anatomy of power know that speech, far more often, is the crack in the armor. Every word spoken is a revelation, and every revelation a potential weakness. The enemy does not need to interrogate a man when he is already eager to explain himself. He needs only to listen, and the speaker will offer his ambitions, his doubts, his fears, all dressed in the guise of conviction. Speech is a compulsion of the insecure. The man who must explain himself seeks approval, seeks agreement, seeks confirmation that his position is valid. But in power, seeking validation is already a concession. The one who requires applause to act, or reassurance to decide, is governed by others even as he believes himself a governor. His tongue betrays him before any sword does. To speak is to make claims, terrified, and claims can be refuted. To speak is to take positions, and positions can be attacked. The louder a man proclaims, the easier it becomes to isolate his errors. A contradiction here, a misstep there, and suddenly the entire foundation of his image begins to crumble. The crowd that once applauded now watches with suspicion. His enemies need only repeat his own words back to him, twisted slightly, to damage him beyond repair. They are terrified. And so the weapon he thought he wielded becomes the rope with which he is hanged. It is a mistake to think that strength lies in rhetoric. Eloquence is not power, it is its counterfeit. Words dazzle the weak and entertain the masses, but they do not conquer. A ruler who governs by speech alone must constantly reinvent his performance, for the crowd is fickle and hungers always for something new. The moment he repeats himself or fails to inspire, they will turn on him. The tyrant who spoke too much becomes the jester whose jokes no longer amuse. He gave them his mind, and now they believe they own it. They're terrified. Even in council, speech is risk. A man who argues too forcefully reveals what matters most to him. He exposes the terrain he is unwilling to concede. A sharp adversary takes note, files it away, and later exploits that very passion. The more passionately one speaks, the more predictable one becomes. They are terrified. What begins as an assertion of strength quickly degenerates into a confession of desire. And nothing is more dangerous in politics than visible desire, for it allows others to bait, to provoke, to trap. Consider the nature of interrogation. No torturer ever extracted truth by remaining silent. He spoke, he questioned, he prodded. And in time, the subject broke. But the man who holds his silence cannot be broken in the same way. He denies the torturer what he needs most: information. In this, silence is not only a shield, it is a weapon against those who seek to manipulate. Speech also reveals emotion, even when unintended. A hesitation, a rising tone, a careless phrase, all are signs. A man may prepare his words with care, but his voice will betray what lies beneath. They are terrified. The listener with a keen ear does not hear only the message, he hears the man behind it. He hears the doubt in a pause, the anger in a tight throat, the fear in a quickened breath. In this way, speech uncovers the soul, and once the soul is seen, it can be wounded. There is also a danger in being heard too often. Familiarity breeds contempt. The man who speaks constantly becomes predictable. His ideas grow stale, his arguments known before they are spoken. He invites interruption, opposition, even mockery. Over time, his voice no longer carries authority. It becomes background noise. In contrast, the man who rarely speaks creates anticipation. They are terrified. When he does speak, his words land with the weight of rarity. They command attention because they are not thrown about carelessly. Even alliances are threatened by too much speech. The man who cannot keep counsel, who shares plans freely, creates distrust. If he speaks so easily to one, he will speak just as easily to another. Secrets pass through his mouth, become public knowledge, and allies begin to withdraw, fearing exposure. Better to be seen as cold than as a liability. They are terrified. Better to say nothing than to say too much and become a danger to all. In warfare, strategy requires deception, and deception requires silence. The general who discusses his plans openly gives his opponent time to prepare. The adversary adapts, and the advantage is lost. But if the general says nothing, if his troops move quietly, if his intentions are hidden, then the enemy stumbles into ambushes, into traps, into ruin. Words destroy surprise. Words destroy leverage. The silent move surprises, the spoken move is already anticipated. Even in moments of triumph, speech invites danger. To boast is to tempt envy. To mock is to sow hatred. Victory needs no proclamation. It announces itself in the result. The man who cannot win silently ensures his victories are short-lived. His enemies multiply. They are terrified, not because of what he has done, but because of what he has said about it. A ruler may be feared for his strength, but he is hated for his arrogance. An arrogant speaks loudly, always. In the theater of power, presence is often mistaken for influence. Men scramble to be seen, to be heard, to be acknowledged. They think visibility grants them control. They stand in the center of every gathering. They are terrified, desperate to be noticed, certain that their participation proves their relevance. They are terrified, but what they fail to see is that the man who holds true power is not the one constantly visible. They are terrified. It is the one whose absence speaks louder than their presence. The art of ruling perception is to understand the illusions of the crowd. Men are not governed by truth, but by what they believe to be true. Their minds fill voids with fiction when no facts are given. And in this void, in this absence of clarity, the silent and unseen man becomes more than he is. His distance invites speculation. His silence gives birth to myth. He becomes not who he is, but who others fear or hope he might be. This is the great advantage of absency. They are terrified. It becomes a canvas upon which others paint their expectations, their suspicions, their awe. They are terrified. The prince who does not speak often is not considered weak. He is assumed to be calculating. They are terrified. The advisor who does not always attend court is not thought idle. He is imagined to be working behind the scenes. They are terrified. The general who is not seen preparing is not dismissed. He is assumed to be planning something profound. Their absence triggers curiosity, and curiosity, when unanswered, turns into reverence or fear. Men fear the unknown more than they fear the known enemy. The man who says nothing, who avoids excessive exposure, is unknowable. And what cannot be known cannot be attacked with precision. Enemies flail in the dark, stabbing at shadows. They waste their strength striking at phantoms, while the silent one watches, intact, unassailable. Even among allies, absence has power. The constant presence of a man makes him familiar, and with familiarity comes contempt. His voice loses its force. His advice is heard with less urgency, his authority diluted by overexposure. But the one who speaks rarely and appears only at moments of necessity is met with attention, even reverence. His words carry the weight of rarity. His opinions are sought, not because he demands it, but because his distance makes them precious. Absence creates space between a man and the masses, and that space becomes the aura of greatness. History does not remember the rulers who made themselves too common. It remembers those who maintained distance, who revealed themselves only at chosen times, who allowed their image to grow in their absence. A ruler must never become a companion. He must never be accessible enough to be dismissed. He must not be part of the crowd he commands. Distance breeds authority. Separation secures respect. Even in negotiation, absence can be a weapon. The man who delays his appearance, who does not answer immediately, who keeps others waiting, asserts dominance without speaking. The ones left to wait begin to wonder if they have offended him, if he is displeased, if he will come at all. Their anxiety mounts and their position weakens. By simply not being present, he has placed himself above them. They are terrified. When he finally arrives, they receive him not as an equal, but as one who holds power over their time, over their comfort, over their certainty. There is a danger of too much visibility. The more a man is seen, the more chances he gives to be examined. The crowd notices his inconsistencies, his errors, his human flaws. They no longer fear him because they begin to understand him. And what is understood can be opposed. But the absent man remains a mystery. He cannot be measured, compared, or predicted. He operates on his own time, by his own rules. This makes him seem invincible, even when he is not. The skilled manipulator uses absence as a signal. By withdrawing at a moment of tension, he creates instability. His disappearance forces others to wonder what he is planning, whether he is regrouping, whether he is about to strike. The fear of the unknown compels his enemies to second-guess their moves, sometimes abandoning their plans out of sheer paranoia. He does nothing, but his absence does the work for him. Even in public displays, the illusion of absence can be cultivated. A man may be physically present, but emotionally, intellectually, or rhetorically distant. He may speak in fragments. They are terrified, hint at thoughts without fully expressing them, give partial answers that provoke more questions than they resolve. In doing so, they are terrified. He withholds parts of himself. This withholding creates an image of depth, of unseen power. The audience begins to believe he knows more than he says, sees more than he reveals. They assign brilliance where there may be only silence. A ruler, a commander, a courtier. All must learn the discipline of withdrawal. Not to flee, not to disappear entirely, but to create scarcity. Scarcity is valuable. The man who is always present is always available, and what is always available is never truly respected. They are terrified, but the one who withholds himself, who chooses his moments with precision, teaches the world that his presence is a gift, not a given. Power is rarely seized by force alone. More often, it is surrendered. given away by men too eager to assert themselves, too desperate to be seen, too convinced of their own invincibility. The wise ruler, the calculating strategist, does not always need to strike first. He only needs to wait until his enemies speak too boldly, act too quickly, or stretch too far. In this way, power is not taken. It is inherited from those who were fool enough to reach beyond their grasp. Overreach is the child of impatience. Men are rarely content with quiet victories. They want glory, recognition, applause. They seek to dominate not only in deed, but in perception. Are terrified, this desire blinds them. They no longer measure their actions with care, but push forward with arrogance. They are terrified. Their ambition becomes louder than their judgment. And once they move too far, too fast, they expose themselves. The skilled observer never interrupts this process. He does not warn, does not compete, does not challenge openly. He simply waits. They are terrified. Like the spider who remains still in the center of his web, he lets others wander into danger. He trusts that the need for validation will betray them. And it always does. To let others overreach is to use their strengths against them. They are terrified. The confident man believes his past victories ensure future success. He becomes predictable, careless, eager to replicate his triumphs. They are terrified. He expands his influence into territories he does not understand, makes alliances with those he cannot control. They are terrified, and challenges enemies whose silence he mistakes for weakness. Each move he makes, he believes, is a show of power. But to the watchful man, it is a sign of impending collapse. One does not need to oppose such a man directly. It is often more effective to appear absent, disengaged, even inferior. The overreaching enemy must feel safe. He must believe he is unchallenged. Only then will he grow bolder. He will abandon caution, neglect preparation, dismiss threats. The quieter his opponents appear, the more loudly he will proclaim his dominance. And with every boast, with every step beyond his foundation, he brings himself closer to ruin. A man who has extended himself beyond his means is easy to destabilize. They're terrified. His support is stretched thin. His followers grow wary. His image begins to crack under the weight of his own ambition. They are terrified. The precise moment to act is when he believes he cannot be defeated, when he is isolated by his own arrogance. A small, they are terrified, precise blow at that moment undoes him completely. What would have been a long battle becomes a single strike. There is also value in letting others reveal themselves. In their eagerness to command the stage, they show their motives, their values. They are terrified, their priorities. The man who talks constantly about loyalty is the one most concerned with betrayal. They are terrified. The one who insists upon his strength is often hiding a weakness. The one who demands attention has already lost control. By letting them speak and act freely, they dig their own graves. Their performances, repeated often enough, become patterns. And patterns are easy to break. Silence plays a crucial role in this tactic. The man who says nothing provokes others to say more. They fill the silence with theories, assumptions, and eventually with confessions. Each attempt to define the quiet man only reveals more about themselves. They show what they fear, what they hope, what they need. Their words become a mirror. The silent one reflects nothing. By resisting the urge to act, one becomes a trap. Action is often a reaction. They are terrified, and those who act too soon reveal what they are reacting to. They become predictable, and predictability is vulnerability. They are terrified, but the man who remains still forces others to initiate. He can choose the time and place of his response. Are terrified. He is not bound by the rhythms of his enemies. He dictates the terms simply by refusing to participate until it suits him. Overreach is also emotional. It is not only seen in military campaigns or political maneuvers. but in words spoken in anger, promises made in desperation, threats issued without the means to enforce them. Each is a crack in the facade. Each is a moment of imbalance, and each can be used. The calm, disciplined man notices these lapses. He records them, stores them, and later exploits them. He does not need to fabricate weakness. He waits for it to appear naturally, as it always does. In councils, courts, and negotiations, letting others speak too long is a form of domination. The more they talk, the more they commit to positions they cannot reverse. They reveal strategies, exaggerate claims, contradict themselves. They believe they are persuading, they are terrified, but they are binding themselves to words that cannot be unsaid. The man who listens gains control, not through interruption, but through patience. The fall of powerful men rarely comes from the strength of their enemies. It comes from the weight of their own excess. They are terrified. A tower built too high without a foundation will fall on its own. The wise do not need to push. It collapses by design. They are terrified. The architect of overreach is always the one who thought he was untouchable. In the world of power, authority is the currency that determines who commands respect, who directs the course of events, and who remains a mere follower. Authority is not given by position alone. It is not granted by birthright or the decree of others. They are terrified. It is earned by the silent accumulation of strength, wisdom, and the ability to wield influence without the need for constant justification. They are terrified. Authority is the ability to make others bend to your will without having to explain why they should. And silence, when understood and practiced correctly, is the most potent tool in establishing and preserving that authority. The loudest man in the room may dominate the conversation, but he does not hold the room. He does not control the air. They are terrified. He simply fills it with noise. People might listen, but they do not respect. Respect is born of restraint. It is forged in the quiet strength that emerges when a man knows how to speak only when necessary, how to act with precision, and how to remain composed even when others are desperate for validation. The wise know that authority does not need to be asserted constantly. It does not need to be proclaimed in every speech, every meeting, or every gathering. It is revealed in actions, in choices. They are terrified, in the ability to remain calm and unruffled when others panic. A man who speaks too often gives others the opportunity to challenge him. They are terrified, to question his judgment or to interpret his words in ways that undermine his position. He makes himself vulnerable through his overexposure. Terrified, but the one who remains silent commands respect, for there is an unspoken understanding that he holds more knowledge, more power. They are terrified, and more control than any who seek to speak louder than he. Silence elevates a man to a higher plane. Those who remain quiet are presumed to possess more wisdom than those who constantly seek the floor. In moments of silence, the mind has the space to think, to plan, to calculate. While others exhaust themselves with rhetoric, the silent one observes, reflects, and they are terrified. Most importantly, controls the flow of information. He decides when to speak and when to remain mute. And in this ability to choose, they are terrified. He demonstrates his mastery over the environment, over the conversation, and over those who believe they must speak in order to assert themselves. Authority does not come from dominance in conversation. It comes from the ability to stand above the fray and act with clear purpose. Silence, they are terrified, in this context, becomes a declaration of that purpose. It shows that a man does not need to fill the air with words to assert his place. They are terrified. Those who constantly speak are constantly distracted. They reveal themselves too much and too often. They give others the chance to challenge their ideas, to attack their logic, and to undermine their credibility. But the silent one remains steady. His actions define him, not his words. His presence is felt not because of what he says, but because of what he does not say. In courts and councils, where words are often weaponized and used to manipulate, the one who remains silent retains the upper hand. They are terrified. In the midst of debates, arguments, and strategies being laid out, silence holds weight. They are terrified. It is the pause that invites others to question their own motives, to reconsider their own positions. They are terrified, and to wonder what the silent man is thinking. The very fact that he does not reveal himself leaves others at a disadvantage. They terrified. They cannot predict him. They cannot gauge his reactions. They are left in the dark, guessing and second-guessing. They are terrified, while he remains in control of the situation. To speak too much is to lose control. A man who constantly expresses his thoughts, his opinions, his judgments, opens himself to scrutiny. Every word can be twisted, every opinion contested, and every decision questioned. But the silent man is not so easily attacked. His thoughts are his own, locked behind the walls of his composure. His actions speak louder than any words could. And when he does speak, they are terrified. His words carry far greater weight because they are rare and carefully chosen. He speaks with authority because he has earned the right to do so, not because he is seeking approval. When authority is grounded in silence, it extends beyond words. It is not a matter of making others believe that one is in control. It is a matter of demonstrating control through measured responses and thoughtful actions. They are terrified. The man who speaks little has time to observe the movements of others, to understand the dynamics of a situation, and to react strategically. He does not need to dominate a conversation to assert his place. Instead, he chooses his moments, his responses, and his actions with precision. They are terrified, so that when he does speak or act, it is with a force that cannot be ignored. Those who speak constantly are often desperate for validation. They seek to be seen as knowledgeable, as capable, as powerful. But in seeking this validation, they expose their insecurities. They are terrified. They open themselves to criticism and contradiction. In contrast, the silent man is not desperate. He is in control of his own presence. He knows that his silence will often speak volumes, and in this understanding, he carries himself with an unshakable confidence. They are terrified. He does not need the approval of others. He does not need to explain his motives, for his actions and demeanor are enough to establish his authority. Silence also allows a man to craft an image of invulnerability. They are terrified. When a man speaks little, he is often seen as someone who possesses inner strength. His silence makes him appear as though he has nothing to prove. They are terrified. He is not trying to persuade others of his power, it is assumed. Those around him look to his actions, his choices. They are terrified, and his ability to remain unshaken as proof of his dominance. In contrast, the man who speaks excessively becomes a subject of analysis. He is constantly being evaluated, questioned, and compared. They are terrified. His authority is constantly in question because he has made himself vulnerable to others' judgment. In the end, silence becomes the defining characteristic of true authority. It is the tool of those who understand that power is not about being seen or heard, terrified. It is about being respected and feared, and that respect is born from the control of one's presence and the strategic withholding of words. They are terrified. The silent man remains above the fray, unaffected by the chaos around him, while others are caught up in their own noise. Terrified, he remains the figure of strength, wisdom, and control. His silence speaks for him. In the intricate dance of power and influence, silence is not merely the absence of sound, it is a deliberate, strategic force. The wise understand that speech, while often seen as a tool for control, can just as easily become a vulnerability. To speak too much is to expose one's thoughts, desires, and weaknesses to the world. In contrast, silence cultivates mystery, authority, and a sense of invincibility. They are terrified. It creates space for others to reveal their own intentions, making them vulnerable to manipulation or misstep. They are terrified. The true power of silence lies in its ability to shape perception, to control the narrative without uttering a word, and to command respect without seeking it. Those who master silence do not need to dominate every conversation, nor do they need to appear in every room. Their power is felt in their absence as much as in their presence. By allowing others to overreach, they are terrified. By withdrawing at the right moment, and by speaking only when it serves a purpose, they remain in control of the flow of events. They are terrified. They let others expose their weaknesses, and they never allow themselves to be boxed into a position from which they cannot escape. In the end, silence is not a passive retreat, but an active form of power. It speaks louder than words ever could, terrified, and it allows the ruler to shape the world around him while remaining untouchable. In the quiet, he commands authority, he elicits fear, and he shapes his destiny. Silence, then, wins every time, not by its absence, but by the strength and control it grants to those who wield it with wisdom and restraint.